If you bought a new construction home in the last 3 years, your house is literally made of oil. The siding on the outside is petroleum. The pipes running through your walls are petroleum. The foam insulation keeping you warm is petroleum. The waterproof membrane under your roof is petroleum. And right now, as tensions in the Middle East send crude prices past $100 per barrel, the companies building these homes are about to make everything worse. There is a crisis unfolding in American real estate that nobody is talking about. We call it the materials substitution death spiral. As oil prices surge from the Iran conflict, builders are not raising prices to cover the difference. They are finding cheaper alternatives to the petroleum-based products your home depends on. And those alternatives are designed to fail even faster than the materials they replace. To understand why this matters, you need to understand how much of a modern home actually comes from crude oil. Walk through any subdivision built in the last decade, and you are looking at neighborhoods constructed from the same raw material that powers your car. That vinyl siding covering the exterior of those cookie-cutter colonials is made from polyvinyl chloride, a plastic derived directly from petroleum and natural gas. Roughly 80% of its weight comes from PVC resin. The white PVC pipes carrying water through your walls and draining your sinks are the same material. The foam board insulation wrapped around your foundation, the spray foam filling your wall cavities, the polyurethane seals around your windows, all of it starts as crude oil. When oil prices were $67 per barrel, which is where they sat the day before the Iran conflict began, builders had already stripped quality to the bone. They were using the thinnest legal grade of vinyl siding, 0.04 inches thick, sometimes called builder grade. They were using the cheapest PVC formulations that meet code. They were installing foam insulation with the minimum R value required by law. But code minimum was the floor, not the ceiling. And now that floor is about to collapse. Since late February, when the United States and Israel launched joint strikes on Iran, Brent crude has surged past $100 per barrel. The Strait of Hormuz, which handles roughly 20% of the world's oil supply, has effectively shut down. Tanker traffic has halted. Gulf oil producers are cutting production because they have nowhere to ship their barrels. Diesel prices have already jumped 75 cents per gallon. Gas at the pump crossed $3.40 and is climbing daily. But here is what the news is not telling you. Those price shocks have not even reached the construction supply chain yet. Petroleum-based construction materials take weeks to feel the full impact of crude price spikes. The vinyl siding sitting in a warehouse right now was manufactured when oil was still cheap. But the next batch, the one being produced this month, will cost significantly more to make. And volume builders, the publicly traded corporations that construct the majority of new homes in America, have a choice to make. They can raise home prices to cover the increased material costs, or they can find cheaper alternatives. If you have been paying attention to how these companies operate, you already know which option they will choose. Wall Street does not reward home builders for building quality homes. It rewards them for hitting earnings targets. And when input costs spike unexpectedly, the playbook is always the same. Find places to cut that buyers cannot see. This is called value engineering, and it is about to accelerate dramatically. A builder looking at a 30% increase in vinyl siding costs has two paths forward. They can absorb the hit to their margins, which their shareholders will punish, or they can switch to an even thinner gauge siding, a lower quality PVC formulation, a cheaper foam insulation with a shorter lifespan. The catch is that the materials were already at the bottom of the acceptable range. There is nowhere left to cut except below code compliance or into product categories that technically meet standards but fail faster in real-world conditions. We are already seeing reports from construction industry insiders about suppliers sending price increase notices weekly. Some contractors are accelerating material purchases to lock in prices before the next wave of increases hits. But volume builders work on such tight margins and such predictable timelines that they cannot stockpile materials months in advance. What this means for you as a buyer is that homes started this spring and summer will be built with whatever materials are cheapest at the moment the supplies arrive on site. And as oil stays elevated, those materials will get progressively worse. Consider what happens to vinyl siding when manufacturers cut costs. They reduce the thickness from 0.04 inches to 0.035 inches. They decrease the titanium dioxide content that protects against UV degradation. They use lower quality plasticizers that make the material more brittle in cold weather and more prone to warping in heat. The siding still looks identical in the showroom. It still technically meets building code. But instead of lasting 20 years before it starts cracking and fading, it fails in 12. The same dynamic plays out across every petroleum-based component in the house. Cheaper PVC pipes have thinner walls that are more susceptible to cracking under pressure. Budget foam insulation has lower density and degrades faster when exposed to moisture. Discount roofing membranes develop microscopic holes years before their premium equivalents. And here is where the real crisis emerges. The homes being built with these degraded materials are not scattered randomly across different neighborhoods and price points. They are concentrated in specific subdivisions, built by specific builders during specific months when costs spiked. In 15 years, when the oil war era vinyl siding starts failing, it will not fail on one house. It will fail on every house in that development simultaneously. The roofs will leak together. The pipes will crack together. The insulation will degrade together. We have seen this pattern before. Neighborhoods built with defective Chinese drywall in the mid-2000s became essentially worthless when the problems emerged years later. Communities constructed with problematic synthetic stucco saw home values crater when the moisture damage became visible. But those were manufacturing defects. What is happening now is intentional cost-cutting baked into the business model. The builders know exactly what they are doing. They just calculate that by the time the failures materialize, they will be protected by expired warranties and binding arbitration clauses. Remember that contract you signed when you bought your new construction home. Buried in the fine print was a clause waiving your right to sue in court. Any disputes go to private arbitration, often with arbitrators selected from lists provided by the builder. So the question becomes, what can you actually do if you are buying new construction in this environment? The answer comes down to one inspection that almost nobody requests: the pre-drywall inspection. Before the builder covers the walls and ceilings, you hire your own inspector, never the one the builder suggests, to examine every component that will be hidden once construction finishes. You want them looking at the siding installation, checking that flashing tape was properly applied around windows, verifying that PVC connections were glued correctly, confirming that foam insulation was applied at the specified density. You want documentation of exactly what materials were used, including brand names and product numbers that you can research independently. This inspection costs maybe $500, but it is the only leverage you have before the walls close and the secrets get buried behind granite countertops and stainless steel appliances. The Iran war may end in weeks, or it may drag on for months. Oil prices may retreat to $70, or they may stay elevated through the end of the year. But the homes being built during this window of uncertainty will stand for decades. And the material compromises being made right now will reveal themselves long after the news cycle has moved on. If you are considering new construction, the time to be skeptical was before the first nail was hammered. But for buyers in the market today, understanding the petroleum connection is the first step toward protecting yourself from houses that are engineered to fail before your mortgage is paid off.